Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Yes, so my name is Tillmann. I'm here to present Yova. Yova is a company that was created to create a more sustainable future, and Yova actually stands for your values. And unlike the organizations that we've heard from so far, we're not a couple hundred years ago yet. We're 3 years old, but we very much strive to be so, or to get to that point. This is my son, Jonathan. This picture was taken a bit less than 3 years ago, briefly after he was born. And I like to start my presentations with him because he really reminds me of my own perspective on sustainability. So he was born in the year 2017. So if nothing really bad happens, he'll live to see the next century. So he'll be alive and probably still in very good spirits and hopefully in good health in the year 2100. And that's something you have to appreciate and let sink in, because usually when we talk about sustainability and long-term thinking, we talk about 2030 or 2050. This is 2100. And this is not even my youngest son now, and it's just one of a new generation that is growing. So it's a big, big reminder of how important sustainability is, because it's much, much more than what we have in the room here right now. It's everything that is to come. And the time frames that we are discussing are just a tiny part of what is already in the scope of the living generation right now. So Beat Brechtbuhl asked me to share a perspective on sustainable entrepreneurship. We have already heard too. So I want to tell you a bit about the Yova story. And let me briefly start by, before I outline my presentation, here, very good, tell you what we're actually after to do. So Yova is a company that aims to turn 400,000 and more private individuals into impact investors throughout the next 6 years. And by that, we achieve that by offering a digital solution for impact investing that is very emotional and really changes the way investing feels, because it makes investing about the purpose. So we've heard a bit about that from Patrick, and that's what unlike Patrick, we're doing that for a retail segment, so everybody out there on the street. And I want to talk to you about three main questions. The first one being, okay, luckily I'm not far away from the computer. The first one being, why do we do what we do, right? So why is it that we got started and said, okay, actually, if there's one thing Switzerland really needs, it's a new financial company. The second question is, what do we want to do, right? So what is it that we actually do? I've shared a preview. I want to get into a bit more detail. And the third question is, how do we do what we do? And a different way of asking that question is, why does what we do actually work very, very well in the marketplace? But let's start with a why. And that starts with a very simple realization. So in Switzerland, we manage quite some money. And it's very important to remind yourself that any kind of investment that you do has an impact on the world, and that includes the money on your bank account, because all the money out there ends up financing something. And if you see this from the perspective of a retail investor for us is anybody who would invest something between, say, a couple hundred francs up to maybe $1 million. If you see it through the eyes of a retail investor, it's almost impossible to understand what effect your money is actually having in the world, because you're so disconnected from it. You have no clue what the bank finances, whether it lends that to an oil rig, to a sustainability company, or to something else. At the same time, we know that the question where the capital is right now is a big part of the answer to the question, how do we live tomorrow as a society? Which are the technologies that will shape our living? Which are the business models that will be around? And this basic insight, that where the capital goes today determines how we live tomorrow, has an abundance of examples in history. So just think about trains, think about renewable energy. Solar energy now is the by far cheapest form of energy production that we have. It was not that case 20 years ago, and it has only become that way because we've deployed a lot of capital into it. And we see it right now happening with space travel. So where the money goes is a big determinant of how we live tomorrow. And if you now look at what the people want, we see that people actually really, really care. You are all here on a conference on sustainable entrepreneurship, so you probably don't have to be convinced of the importance of the matter. But as it stands, people out there also don't need convincing anymore. People care. And they vote in politics. You can see it with the success or the rise of the Green parties, but you can also see it with the rise of green topics in any other political parties, maybe except for one political party in the United States. You can see in the way people eat. The amount of vegetarianism that has grown substantially, and even non-vegetarians like myself eat veggie much more than they might have in the past. And you can see it in the way that people buy products. So every kind of purchasing decision is influenced by a core change, and that is that the people out there, that includes all of us and everybody else in this country and in the world, they want sustainability. They care about these issues. But if you take these two insights, where the capital is matters for the future, and people want sustainability, if you then look at, okay, where is the capital, you actually see that it's not where it needs to be. And that's one of the core questions that we wonder about at Yova. What if we could unlock this will of the people? You can already plan your travels in a more sustainable way. When you buy clothes, you can somewhat make sure that human rights were a part of the equation when it was produced. Firms like Nike and Adidas cannot get away anymore with scandals. When you eat, you can incorporate sustainability wishes. But what about your money? What about your investments? What about taking care of your own financial future? So that's what we do with Yova. Yova is about turning investing into a social movement for a better future. And the idea is to not do that by telling people, hey, you all need to change your behavior, but by providing an investment solution that finally works for the retail world because it's beautiful, it delivers good returns, but also it's just the right thing to do. It feels right because it realigns you with your values. That's the why behind Yova. So let me briefly show you what that looks like. And to do that, I want to take another step back in a very different direction. What are two of the most important market forces that we see at face right now? We heard today about the trend sustainability. We actually at Yova, we never call it a trend. We don't think it's something that is coming up now, like maybe technology did, and will go away. We think this is quite a fundamental shift that is here to stay. But there's another fundamental shift, and that is digitization, obviously. That may sound mundane, but if you think about it, fintech has really reached the end consumer only in the last maybe 3 to 4 years with the arrival of the neobanks. So consumer fintech has just started. People being very comfortable with shifting a lot of money around from their phone, from their couch at home. That is quite a new thing, but it's changing the financial industry already dramatically right now. And the second consumer shift we've talked about, sustainability. So if you take these two together and all the whys that we talked about in the first part of the presentation, you can start wondering, what if we could make investing about purpose and a better world as well as financial return? And a very different way, or a slightly different way to ask that same question is, what if everyone could be an impact investor? That's the question that we asked ourselves at Yova, and that's what we want to get to, turning everyone into an impact investor. So for those of you who may not know, what is an impact investment? An impact investment is an investment that is designed to create a social and environmental return alongside a financial return. So it's defined by these two core characteristics. It should make the world a better place, but it should also make you money. And that is obviously important for anybody. It's probably important if you want to have mass appeal for a solution, that it enables people, to set themselves up for the future. But it's especially important for the retail segment, because these people need to invest in order to take care of their families and themselves in the future. And by the way, in terms of investment philosophy, we haven't talked about it too much today. It also just makes sense to to put a return perspective on doing good, because we've talked about companies that have been around for more than 100 years. If you want real impact into the world, you want to invest in the good companies that succeed. Otherwise, you're not going to have a lot of impact. So that's what Yova is about, becoming an impact investor. And what we do, that's actually very, very special. There's no other company in Europe who can do what we do. We provide our customers with direct investments into companies that make the world a better place. So our customers become shareholders of these companies. Let me very briefly show you how that works. It's a beautiful online solution that you can all try out on your phones. The step one is you pick the topics that you care about. So that could be climate change, but it could also be biodiversity. It can also be social topics such as human rights or gender equality. That's the first step. We just ask you, what are your values? What do you care about? Then we immediately provide you with an investment strategy where you can see each individual company that you invest in, and they're obviously all selected to support your values and bring you forward towards that future that you want to live in. And thirdly, you can open your account and invest. All within a couple of minutes from the comfort of your couch with your phone in your hand. You don't even need to put pants on to become an impact investor. And to give you a couple of examples of what that could look like, so with Yova you can invest in companies like Nibe. Nibe is a maker of sustainable heating and cooling technologies, so think about things like heat pumps, very successful from Sweden. And that may also sound mundane, but if you think about carbon emissions, heating and cooling buildings is actually one of the driving forces of what puts us on a locked-in path with emissions. So these are the kind of technologies that we need if we take the Paris Agreement seriously. And you can invest within them if you invest with Yova. Another example, a bit more intuitive, is Gamesa. It's a maker of wind turbines. I like to use this example because this really shows the empowering nature of being a direct shareholder, because feedback that we get from our customers is that they write to us, the other day I was in the car with my friends driving to the mountains, I saw the wind turbine and I saw the Gamesa logo, and it just made me feel so happy because I now am a part of the energy transition. This is one of my companies. And maybe to move away from just climate impact, think about gender equality. Spotify is a company that maybe some of you use, a music streaming company. We really like them as an example for gender equality, not only because they have an almost balanced management and an almost gender balanced workforce, but they care so much about gender equality that they integrate it into their product. So one of the strengths at Spotify is that they propose new music to you. They know your taste, so they tell you, hey, you might like this, you might like that. And when they do that, they take good care that they promote the same number of female artists as male artists. And again, that may sound like a detail, but Spotify reaches millions and millions of people worldwide. So the question, which artists do they propose, has a big effect on which artist makes in the world. So this is gender equality in real life. That's what we call the handprint, opposed to just simply the footprint. And another gender equality example is SAP, one of the European tech giants. The reason why we like them as an example is that especially the more established tech companies tend to say that gender equality is just not possible in technology because there's not enough female talent. Well, SAP very clearly shows that if you're serious about gender equality, you can very much make it a source of your competitive edge rather than something where you just say it's not possible for us. So these are some of the examples that you can invest in with Yova. Just like that, you become an impact investor. And what you get as a retail investor with Yova, you get a diversified long-term investment. That's very important. You're not betting on renewable energy. You're not betting on gender equality. It's a diversified portfolio, so your risk is always very closely managed. But you get return as well as the sustainability impact. It's not either or. It's not philanthropy. It's not conventional. You actually get the best of both worlds. And importantly, everyone can do it. Our mission is to make impact investing mainstream. So you don't need a lot of money. Right now in Switzerland, you can start with 2,000 francs. We're entering the German market now, where the limit will even be lower. And you don't need any kind of knowledge. More than 70% of our customers have actually never invested before. And just in parentheses, that's not because they don't have money. 40% of our customers have 6-digit incomes. So my invitation to try it out, maybe not right now, but later, or once you have a minute for yourself, it just takes a couple minutes. It's quite a fun experience. And you don't have to sign up for anything. You do have to sign up to use it, but you don't have to pay anything or take any kind of obligation. Importantly, what differentiates us, this is about real impact. If you invest with Yova, you're a shareholder of these companies. So not only do we have almost 30,000 users by now, this number is a bit updated, that learn through the platform what does corporate sustainability actually mean, because we can show them these are the companies in your portfolio and that's why we think they're good. But also you can take direct influence, because as a shareholder you can exercise your voting rights. You can file shareholder propositions and you can engage with the top management directly, which, by the way, is something that we're already doing right now. So we have webinars where we connect the CEOs from our target companies. Niebe, the one we just talked about, is a good example, directly with Yova investors. Yova investors can scrutinize them on their sustainability impacts and propose solutions. So this is a form of direct engagement between retail investors and top management that has not existed to date. So that's what we do. Let me briefly tell you how we do it and why we think it works so well. So there are two big answers to the question. The first one is, what we're really good at from a market perspective is we're turning investing into something people really care about. And not just because it ends up on their bank statement, but it's something that is close to their heart. If you look at the feedback that we get, and there are a lot of examples that you can find on the web, people are really, really proud because it makes sense to them, which again is good for the business for us, because already by now the largest source of new customers for us are referrals. People are so excited, they tell their friends about it because it really is something that sticks with them even after they've turned off the app. The second secret is it's all driven by technology. We don't, on the Yova team, we're 25 people, you don't find a single financial analyst. You don't find a single sustainability analyst. It's all driven by technology, it's all automated. What you find is a great team of technologists, a small number of very skillful investment managers, and everyone on the team as a sustainability expert. And that's what you get as a team if you want to build a company like this. So let me skip the technology part. I've mentioned about how well it works. We're actually quite happy. Even in the pandemic year, we've been able to fulfill our growth expectations. We currently add a couple hundreds of new investors every month, and that is why we're so excited about our mission. Our target is to reach more than 400,000 individual customers. So this is very different from traditional wealth management. We're not talking about small number with large tickets. We're talking about gigantic numbers with reasonable tickets. Our average investor has between 20 and 50,000 francs, and we want to enable them into active ownerships, into becoming active owners. So that's why we say we're turning investing into a social movement for a better world. So just imagine the potential for impact that we have if we succeed. This could be the largest empowerment of average people out there that we have outside of democratic votes. Empowering them to directly influence companies by voting on who gets to run the company, by voting on the strategic direction, by engaging directly with the management, by finding shareholder propositions, by learning about what the companies do, by learning about what corporate sustainability is. That's what we're doing with Yova, and we very much invite all of you to join our mission to mainstream impact investing one way or the other. Thank you very much for your attention.